All righty. We are live. We are live. It is your host, Myki Angeline with the Women's International Music Network with our live Front and Center podcast. I have been looking forward to this interview for so long. Our schedule has been crazy and we've been spending weeks trying to get this together, but I'm so happy to welcome Kate Schutt here to the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to be here.
And you're on the East Coast.
I'm in New York City.
Yeah. Yep. What's the weather like and everything happening over there for you right now?
We're getting a little bit of rain from Hurricane Ida, I think.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Gosh. So you're
we're not suffering through what you guys are out there in California. I'm really so sorry. And I think just all of us here watching that are just, our hearts are clenched, basically.
Thank you so much. It's when you said Ida, I've been following the news on the devastation for this directly suffering from Ida. Mm-hmm. And you're dealing with rains from that. It's just, does it not feel so apocalyptic right now? Like just kind of around the world? Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Right? Am I wrong?
I just try to take it one moment at a time, really.
Goodness. So in this next 30 minutes or less, we're going to focus on, because you have a new album out. It's a very intimate album that encompasses around the 5 years you spent taking care of your mother, who unfortunately did pass away from cancer. Correct. We'll also touch on, a little bit about you leading up to that. And then we'll get into a deep dive of just vulnerableness, right? With dealing with grief, whether we've lost somebody or how people can and can't relate to that, especially in the world today with it. We're still in the midst of this pandemic and loss. So, so we'll do all that, just give that little preface there. Sure. So let's start off with introduce the world to who Kate Schutt is.
Yeah. I'm a singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer. I'm also a life coach. I live in New York City. I make music, sounds like pop jazz. I love it. I love what I do. I love writing songs. I love helping people find clarity. Those two things are finding clarity for myself through writing songs and helping people find clarity through coaching. But that's who I am. That's what I've been doing. That's me.
And that's you. And how long have you been doing that prior to this album?
I think that Bright Nowhere is something like my 12th or 13th record. I haven't really kept track, but it's kind of like my third studio record. I made a lot of records back in the day, on tour, made them live, traveling around the country playing, and you can't really find those records anymore. I mean, I think you can find them on eBay. Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah, you can look for them on eBay. But so, I would say it's really my third full studio record. I've also produced a record for, I've produced one or two records for other people. So, so that's what I've been doing up until this point.
You do a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. You're an artistic empath, it sounds like.
I do. Yeah. I don't really know what the word empath means, but I try to be a good listener.
And you also did a TED Talk in 2018, which I was checking out snippets of it. You really know how to connect with folks when you talk. You really do.
I try to. I worked very hard on that TEDx talk. I'm smart enough to know that things live on the internet forever. And that message, which is really the message of Bright Nowhere, my new record, of, changing the way we relate to loss and letting go. That message is really important to me. And when that TEDx talk fell in my lap, really, I got invited to do it. I threw my whole self into it. And really worked very, very hard on it so that the message would really have the impact I wanted it to have. And I still, to this day, get comments and emails and texts and about that talk, about people saying, I never really knew how to show up for my friend who was, grieving, and now I do. You gave me ways in which I could show up, and thank you so much.
Oh, it is so good. And we will share your website so people can go to it, because it is on the page of your website. Yeah. That's where I found it.
Yeah.
And so you did doing the TED Talk. When did you because this album, how long did it take you to write? Because you have a lot of songs on this new album. I know you recently released Nothing I Won't Bear.
Yeah, correct.
But with all the songs you have on the album, how long did it take you from beginning to end to get those written and then completed?
Oh man, well, my mom got diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2011, and I was doing my musician thing here in New York City, and I literally put my guitar down and I moved home to take care of her. I mean, it wasn't even a choice. I moved to Pennsylvania and into a childhood bedroom and began the process of taking care of her. I mean, she had a very late stage cancer. And so I didn't actually pick up my guitar for a year and a half. Her care was just so overwhelming. And I have a dad, but he was like an old school dad. Like, he wasn't the one who was going to be in there, like on the front lines, making the decisions. And I have 2 older brothers too, but they have families and lives. And either way, this was what I was doing with my life. So I started taking notes about the songs I thought I wanted to write. Things would happen to us and to my mom and to the family, and just the ways in which I was wrestling with her illness, and the family was wrestling with her illness, and she was wrestling with her illness. And so I started just taking notes, and I kept that up. That was like the smart thing that I did. And I kept that up. And then, so I really didn't get a chance to start writing my first song for the record, which is a song called Death Comes Slow, which I started that in 2013. And I finished that one. I got the opportunity to go away to an artist residency foundation and just like be by myself and work on music. And I wrote that song there. And actually, really interesting fun fact is that my record label Artist Share is putting up Bright Nowhere for a Grammy nomination, and that song for I think it's Best Americana Performance.
Wow.
So if you're a voting member of the Recording Academy, I would love you to vote for Death Comes Slow and Bright Nowhere in the in various categories where you'll see it show up. But anyway, so the writing of the record took many, many years because I was caring for my mom, and it wasn't a linear process. And I think if we're all really honest with ourselves, nothing artistic is really, generally speaking, very linear, I mean, I'm sure you've made music and records and, creative things, artistic things, and you get derailed all the time, and you have to pick it back up and find the thread. And that's just what I did. I mean, I really didn't, my mom died in 2015. I really then I could get to work in a very sort of focused way. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing the rest of these songs. I'm finding the producer. I knew I didn't want to self-produce it. I had self-produced all my other records. And I knew this one wasn't for me to produce. It was just too close to the bone,
Yeah.
So I think we started recording in 2017. We didn't really finish till the end of 2018, early 2019. It was a very long process. It is what it is.
Yeah. And and you're talking about how you could dive into it. You come out of spending nearly 5 years of caring for your mother, which I can relate to that to a point. We talked about that off camera because of my mother going in and out of health issues, being in the hospital so many times. It's like she has a frequent flyer card and been intubated, almost lost her a couple times. So I, on a somewhat scale, I relate to that.
For sure.
So for you, and then we can, as we go back and forth with this will just be a very organic conversation because for you, was the calling like automatic and you just knew you would, or did you have to kind of talk yourself into it?
It's a great question. I knew I would. I knew that I knew I would be writing about this. I didn't know how I could do it. I really didn't, because I wanted to write. So I'm a big reader. And one of the books that I was reading when my mom got sick was a book called Mortality by the great journalist, author, Christopher Hitchens. And it's a very slim book. It's like about half an inch thick, if that. And it's a memoir about him getting throat cancer. And he's a fantastic writer. And he basically wrote through his diagnosis to his death about what was going on. And he was so articulate and so just diamond hard in his just the way he talked about what was going on, that I wanted to basically write a set of songs. I didn't know if it would be an album or what it would be, but a set of songs that was that affecting, that articulate, that truthful about the experience that we were going through, all of us. And so I knew I wanted to do that. The only question was, could I do it? Because I didn't want to say something trite. And, you know, and I didn't, and frankly, a lot of things I didn't know how I felt, and I didn't know how to talk about. There's a song called "The Victory on the Road to Defeat." And that was a song I wrote later on, but I had the idea for it very early on, which is like, my mom was going to die of cancer. Like, this cancer was going to kill her, whether it killed her 2 months from then, 2 months from when, you know, we talked to the doctor, or 2 years or 20 years. Like, it was going to be the thing that killed her. And the thing I noticed about being in a hospital situation is, like, you know, you take frontline chemo. Basically, they're trying to kill you. They're trying to kill you with chemo. And in doing so, kill the cancer and hope that they don't kill you at the same time. And so it's like they're always trying to, you know, you're trying to win these victories on the road to what is ultimately a defeat, because you will be killed by this disease. And of course, we're all going to die at some point. So it was like, how do I talk about that concept in a song and make it listenable? Like, you know,
that's the catch. We discussed that earlier too, that we're going to bring back up. You know, you have so much emotion tied into this album. And when I was listening to, like, I included Nothing I Won't Bear, which is your latest single, and a few down on it, even down to Right Nowhere. And I did listen to As I Saw Death Arrive. And like I was saying, if you let this play in the background, it's almost, I felt guilty enjoying it, because you just listen in the background without focusing on the lyrical content. It's a beautiful album. But then when you listen to the words, I'm sitting here trying not to cry because I can relate. I'm feeling for you, and I can relate. And I thought, this all sounds like, when you mentioned how you were taking notes, that's exactly how it sounds. A lot of this is like Dear Diary.
Yes. Yeah.
In the moments of when it happened over the course of the 4.5, 5 years of you caring for your mother.
Yeah. I mean, it was really important to me that this music be accessible and relatable. So it's very personal, obviously. I mean, what song isn't, you know?
Right.
But the message of the music, and the reason why I wanted to write it, was to basically give people this thing, a song, a set of songs that they could use to open up conversations around loss.
Perfect.
And letting go.
Perfect.
And if every song was totally sad and totally a tearjerker, then I would have failed. Yeah. So I had to, you know, there's a lot of songs like Nothing I Won't Bear, or It Won't Be Long, or Roll the Stone Back.
On this album, yeah.
Yeah. It won't Roll the Stone Back. There's a lot of songs that they sound like, they actually, if you listen to them in one way, they just sound like love songs.
They do. Oh my gosh, the way that the arrangement and how light the music is. The music is light, and even when you sing it, it's almost lullaby-like.
Yeah.
But the content is so heavy in a sense. So, and I like that you said that about opening up conversation, because this is where we're going to dive into. And I've seen this. I have friends who have been very vulnerable and open when they've contracted COVID, survived it. And one friend in particular was very detailed in what it was like for her from being sick to being in the ER and then coming out. And then other friends where they were stuck and didn't understand how all of a sudden their friends weren't there for them. And it was this harsh reality of not everybody. And you have to take in the factor that we're all suffering because of COVID, because of the natural disasters, everything in between. But also, not everybody is equipped, and they find out in that moment that they just don't have it in them to face that kind of tragedy or face that kind of fear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's that, you know, we all, when we go through hard things, I mean, I always said, because when I went through this with my mom, you know, I'm a person who thought of herself as having a lot of friends. And I do have a lot of friends, but you know, when things got really tough for over a long period of time, I mean, 5 years is a long time.
It's a very long time.
You know, yeah, there were only a handful of people who really showed up, like one or two.
Yeah.
Who showed up consistently, you know, were really there for me. I mean, at one point I didn't even think I would, you know, it's easy to see me now and be like, wow, this music is amazing. This record is amazing. But like, at one point I didn't even know if I would pick up my guitar ever again. Like, you know, I didn't know that I would be able to write these songs, and I didn't know if I even wanted to write songs. I mean, when you don't pick up your guitar or do anything musical for, you know, a year and a half, like, you start to wonder, who am I? Yeah. And so anyway, the point is that, like, you know, having people that were there for me through that dark time, like, there were only like one or two, and that's okay. I think you can actually, one of the lessons I took from this is, like, if you have one person, you're okay. Like, you can make it through with one person.
Yes.
And then the rest of us just need help figuring out how to show up, you know, and that's a little bit of what you and I talked about and what you just touched on, which is like, I believe that all those other people in my life and all the other people in your friend's life, they probably wanted to show up. They just didn't know how. Right. Because America, and the Western culture at large, doesn't do a great job of teaching us how to be okay with loss and letting go.
Yeah. The focus around, you know, mental health is only really surfaced on a positive, supportive level in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
For the longest time, it was something to be ashamed of. It was something to be locked up for. It was something to blame a loss of a marriage or losing your children or losing a job. And, you know, and there's something else too. I think we all need to take time out to kind of really take it easy on ourselves and forgive ourselves, because if you do the math, let's do the math. You talked about having a lot of friends, and that's a broad brush to paint with, because we have friends for different reasons, right?
Right.
Can you imagine all of us right now? I want everyone who's watching this, whether either now live or later on, think about a number in your head of all the people that you know, and ask yourself if you could physically, emotionally, and mentally be there for every friend the whole time.
Right.
You can't.
You can't.
Now flip it and understand that that's who they are. So not take it personal if people can't be there, or maybe they're going through their own loss and they haven't been vocal about it. Maybe you didn't realize that their aunt has been suffering through leukemia, or they themselves have some health issue. Right. And so I think through something like this, you become grateful to have that one or two friends, but you learn how to get through it on your own and just be grateful if and when others can be there with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
I mean, yeah, that's it's showing them compassion, the same, you know, showing them grace.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really where the TED Talk came from, which is like, okay,
I can't wait to watch the whole thing, by the way, because I loved all the snippets that I went through and saw. You were brilliant. You all need to watch this, but we'll talk about it in a second.
It's just like, you know, hey, I'm on the other side of this, and let me just help you. Let me just give you 3 things that you can do to show up for a friend, you know, in a real way, not in a like phone it in kind of way, and also in a way that like doesn't, you know, necessarily make you feel like you have to do it for the rest of whatever, you know, like, but just let me help you with that. And in a way, the songs function like that. I mean, when the record came out, or before the record came out and before COVID, because the record was done before COVID, I was touring the record. Okay. And I was going to cancer support communities in and playing the music for people who were, you know, going through the same thing I had been through.
What was that like?
It was amazing, because for so many people, it opened up. It was like a key that unlocked. The music was like a key or keys that unlocked things that they didn't know they needed to say.
Yeah.
Or didn't know they were feeling. And so then they could feel it. So there were a lot of tears, and there were a lot of, there was a lot of real talk. It was amazing.
I can
it was
only
incredible.
imagine. Yes.
I can't wait to do more of it.
Oh, your music is perfect for that. I mean, I'm going to go through and listen to the whole album. I caught a few of the songs. I definitely wanted to hear the release that went out, but that's what I think, not even to feel guilty that I enjoyed it. I felt a sense of support.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying words that were on my heart. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great, because there are folks that finding the words is so hard. And when you can come across an album like yours, like Bright Nowhere, or come across your TED Talk, all of a sudden it becomes a reality to go, that's what I've been thinking and feeling this whole time.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Right.
Right. And isn't that so much of what we turn to music for? Like,
yes,
is to mirror back to us, or to show us the emotion, to give form to an emotion that we, maybe we knew we had it, but it amplifies it, or it exposes it. I mean, I think that's partly why we make music as humans, and why we listen, for sure, or why we're listeners.
And something I wanted to ask you too, going back to, did your, when we're taking care of a loved one, when they're going through something like what your mother went through, how was she? Did she reciprocate your care? Did she? Was it a pride thing? Because my mom, it's a pride thing, and it was difficult for me to figure out how to be there for her without being overbearing.
Yeah.
Did you go through that with your mom?
It's a great question, and my mom was at that time was a very old school mom, like, sort of the rock of our family, the dealer, the one that, everybody turned to for support. And yes, it was very, very hard for her to accept that now she was the one who had to be taken care of. And that's why I wrote the song, Nothing I Won't Bear.
Yeah.
So I wrote that song, Nothing I Won't Bear, and she heard it before she died. And up until she heard that song, it was very hard for her to accept care and the love and support. And then when I wrote a song about it and she heard that song, we never had that conversation ever again.
Oh my goodness. Ever. That's like out of a movie.
Yeah, it was. It was like out of a movie. It was like out of a movie. But I think that's the power of lyrics and music.
Yeah.
And it's also the power of her seeing me. Because one of the things she was most scared about, of course, is that, like, oh, you put down your career to take care of me. Like, she felt so guilty.
Right.
And by me taking time and creating that song, and then showing it to her, she was, in a way, she never said this, but I know that what it meant to her was like, oh, she's going to be okay. Like,
that is so big and I'm a parent. So as a parent, like what your mom is thinking, that's another hard thing I think we deal with when we know we're leaving, and will our kids be okay? Right. And I'm sure that's, for you to say thank you for sharing that, because you were able to translate to your mother, Mom, I will be okay. Yeah. And it's okay to accept help, and you're not weak for doing it. You know what I mean? And
totally. That's what it was all about. That's what that song in particular was very much that I set out, because I kept butting heads with her.
Yeah.
I
know that. Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, what is it going to take, basically? What is it going to take for you to, to slow down here and to let me carry the load? Right.
Oh, I'm going to try not to cry, because I'm as hard-headed too. And my mother's as hard-headed. And that was,
I think in a lot of ways, I think a lot of moms are hard-headed. I mean, women, it's a very gendered thing, right? Like, women, we are dealers. We're forced to deal. We're forced to be capable.
Oh, we have the capacity. That's the thing. Whether we take it on or not, we do have the capacity to take on such emotional load. It's ridiculous. I found myself without fail and without hesitation, I should say, helping my mother. And it wasn't until I forced myself out of the situation, because I had to. We discussed this off camera. And I felt like I was abandoning my mother. Yeah. And I didn't realize until it took me several months to not feel guilty about abandoning my mother.
Right.
But once I got away from it, I didn't realize how much I took on and how much lifted, because I don't think of my mother as a burden.
Right.
And I'm sure, I mean, was that for you? If I could ask that, like, once it was said and done, and you know, you cared for your mother, she had passed on, you went through what you had to create the album. Was that at any point when you realized that was a lot? Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole time I thought it was a lot, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. My mom was an amazing person. I'm very lucky in that regard. You know, she also really met me where I was as a daughter, and my mom essentially went on like a spiritual journey. Like, you know, when confronted with her mortality, she kind of rose to the occasion, and I was there to walk that path with her. And she could have not done that. She could have, you know, crumpled and felt sorry for herself and done any number of things. I mean, there's a whole range of other things she could have done, and she didn't do that. And so even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and there was so much suffering involved in it, personally, not just because my mom was dying, but just, you know, from not being in my world anymore, not, you know, pursuing my career anymore. There was so much I had to sacrifice personally to do that for my mom and for my family. But I would do it again in a heartbeat, because it was such a profound experience. I will be forever altered from it. I mean, I look at life. I don't take life for granted at all. I'm ready to die. I'm okay with death and dying. And I have a way of being around loss and letting go that I think I sort of have somewhat always had it, in terms of just who I am as a being. But certainly that experience sort of accelerated my comfortableness and my ability to engage around what is usually a very difficult topic for people.
You know, I believe that's a Buddhist philosophy, live every day. Like it's a good day to die, being you're ready, that you live without regret, and you live with purpose, and you live without ego, and you live without insecurity. And that's really everyone's personal journey each day. And it's a little bit you try to accomplish each day. Was there a lesson out of all of this that you gained that you didn't expect? Like a life lesson of sorts, being that you're a coach.
Yeah. That's a really great question. Something I didn't expect. Well, I mean, sort of by this, you mean the whole experience. I could choose anything. Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that when I was making, when I finished writing all the songs, I actually wrote 17 songs. I think the record came out with only like 11 or 10 on there.
You got 12 on there.
So 12 on there.
Songs got scrapped.
There you go. Yeah, just kept aside. I didn't know how much I would have to believe in my vision to get it across the finish line. And what I mean is, I was at that point playing the music for various people and various concerts. I was doing house concerts. I was doing concerts, you know, in gigs here at the Rockwood Music Hall, et cetera. And when I would talk to people, I'd say like, yeah, I'm getting ready to record this record. Like, I really want to find a producer, and I hear it as this big sound. Everyone was like, oh no, this is a guitar and voice record. This is a very intimate record. And I was like, no, it's not actually. It's not. I really hear it as a much bigger sound and a much bigger production than that. And everybody was like, nope, no, it's not. These songs are so personal, Kate. You know, they're really only going to get across if they're like done really intimately and personally. And that was really surprising to me. And people just kept saying that to me. And I was like, it's not. And like no one that I talked to could get on board with this vision. And so I guess the lesson I learned is like, even when I mean, it's some sort of trite, it sounds really trite, but like literally everyone was like, no, it's not a big record. And I was like, yes, it is. And the lesson is, don't give up the ship. Like, if you think it is a way, do it. And it'll take however long it takes. I couldn't have told you that it would take, another 5 years for it, almost 6 years for it to come out.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long freaking time in the music world.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
that's a lifetime.
I mean, some artists have already had it on their third album by that point. You know, and good for you to stick to that. And knowing here's where I really admire you, because you found a way, and maybe you didn't know as you were doing it, you just had faith to do it, but you were navigating personal loss, trying to be there for somebody who has struggled with you being there, knowing at some point her life was going to end. What do I do with my career? Oh, now I'm writing these songs, but do I even have the desire to pick up the guitar again? Oh, wait, I'm seeing a true vision with this album, despite everything that's been piled on me for 5 years, and to see that through is just beautiful.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a hero's journey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If anybody knows that,
my goodness,
reference.
And I even, to be honest, for some reason, when you were talking about how everyone saw it as only an
guitar,
whatever,
record,
I actually see you at some point and after I do this, please let us know when if you have performances you want to list, but I see you doing the concert, and maybe you pick one song,
of course,
where it's like Spotlight, Stool, and then you go into that little intro into it.
Yes.
And the reason, and I'm going to cut only because this is what it makes me think of. I'm a huge Matchbox 20 fan.
Oh yeah.
Rob
Beck
Thomas is my future ex-husband.
Do you know that the guitar player for Matchbox 20, Matt Beck, played on this record? It's his guitar playing, his electric guitar playing. I'm playing nylon
so serendipitous. String. Oh my, I'm going to cry. And the reason I brought this up is because everyone knows the song 3 a.m.
Yep.
And it first came out in, I think, 97, 90, no way, am I getting it wrong? 96, 97, I think. Mm-hmm. So, it's a pop song.
Yeah, of course.
People are like, oh, what a crazy chick he's trying to date. Then this is when MTV was still a thing, and they did their acoustic, I forgot what they called it. Or no, VH1 Storyteller, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just him at a piano. And all of a sudden he tells the story of this song. And he even says, I don't really like to tell what songs are about because I want it to be whatever it is to you.
To have your own experience.
He says the lyrics to this song, 3 a.m., happened at a time when he was 12 years old. His mother had a cancer scare, and for a whole week they didn't know if it was going to be malignant or benign. So these lyrics are about his mother crying to him.
Wow.
And then he goes into this whole just him and the piano. Girl, freaking wrecked me before the song even started. And when he gets to the line, it's my fault. Mm-hmm. That's his mother saying it to him when he's 12.
Right.
Girl. So this is why all of that in a nanosecond, when you said what you said, I'm like, she's going to pick a song on the album that's going to just resonate. Mm-hmm. And she's going to do that. And the whole damn place is going to be so quiet. You can drop a pin and everyone's going to be blowing their noses in their jacket sleeves. And it's going to be her fault. And it's going to be the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
So as I press in all of that, that's now you know what I need to get. Okay. Are you releasing this on vinyl?
No, I mean, not until
I know it's expensive.
The crowds are clamoring for it.
Because I've already saved it and downloaded and everything, on Spotify, and I want to purchase, I want to give you money. I always believe in supporting artists. Yeah. And as soon as vinyl comes out, I'm going to get it. But I just can't wait to just play that whole thing from front to back and just have that experience with you.
Yeah. The feedback I've gotten from people who sit down and listen to it start to finish, don't stop.
Yeah.
Is that it's a life-changing experience for them. And because it's not quite chronological. Right. It doesn't quite go from, the beginning of her cancer to her death. But that being said, there is a narrative arc to it.
Okay.
And actually, one of the things that I'm doing right now is turning it into a musical. Yeah, because I actually always thought, like from the beginning, once I had more than like 4 songs written, I was like, this needs to be like a one woman show, like a theater piece,
Okay.
basically. So now that all the songs are written, I'm sort of, I'm not,
I think you should.
I'm definitely doing it. I mean,
I almost pictured, I don't want to say Lifetime because I dread the whole Lifetime series, but I actually pictured something like, with all the streaming services that are out there, like the mini series that they do where it's like 3 to 7 episodes.
Yeah.
And I just see this sort of playing out to that with this as the soundtrack. But I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of like a off-Broadway kind of like, and maybe it's one woman and maybe I'm the woman who does it, or maybe I write, a couple other characters into it. But I've never written for theater. I've never written like, dialogue, but I've already started, and we'll see where it goes.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? After seeing what I saw in your TED Talk, you would rock it. And I mean, it's so rare too for an artist to put out an entire album and the whole album just be money, because I don't mean to use the word money because it's not money, but 12 songs and they're all so good, because a lot of artists just put out like 3-4 song EPs, single here, single there.
It's hard to write one good song. Yeah. It's freaking hard to write one good song. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Much less, 12 of them.
So do you have anything coming up that you're doing live performances now, or is it still kind of a hard thing because with COVID and everything?
I'm doing, occasionally I'm doing some streaming stuff. Occasionally I'm doing some live stuff. Sort of, like last weekend I was down in Delaware. I have a niece whose COVID project was to learn to play the guitar. So I gave her lessons every Sunday during COVID. Which was fun over Zoom. She was in Delaware. I was in New York. Sent her one of the guitars I won in a songwriting contest, and that's what we started with. And so I went down to play a gig with her. She was raising money for the animal sanctuary she works at. And so that was the best. That sounds beautiful all the way around. Yeah. My goodness. Just keep tugging at the heartstrings, why don't you, Kate? Jeez, yeah, whatever. It was amazing. So I did that. So I'm doing some stuff like that. I'm going into the studio Monday and Tuesday of this coming week, to record some music videos for these songs. Okay. Which will be great, in the hopes that this small trio. So a friend of mine, Julian Lage and Scott Colley, those 2 guys are colleagues, friends, heroes of mine, and we're putting together a little trio to go out and play this music live. Ooh, they love the record, and they've actually been around since its inception. They've been playing these songs with me since the very beginning, and so we're hatching this plan to go put together a trio and go play the music live. So that's working on it. I mean, I'm working on the play version. I'm working on the trio to go play it live. I mean, at some point here, when COVID is hopefully a memory for all of us, I'd like to put the full band together, including Matt Beck and Rob Mounsey, the producer, and Nikki Richards and Venice Thomas and Everett Bradley, who are the background vocalists, and the Gregoire Murray, the harmonica player, and Richard Thompson, the bass player, and put us all together and do it live, like start to finish. Yes. We all want to do that.
That would be great.
So, stay tuned, but I'm not going to do that until everybody feels,
absolutely.
Feels safe.
Especially considering the topic of what the album was written after, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. So, and wow. So great. Okay. So here, I've already put it in the chat, but I'll put it up here as well. Website, please go. Mm-hmm. Her music is there. The TED Talk video is there. Her blog is there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I appreciate you for taking the time and sharing this with all of us today, Kate. You are incredible.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Myki, for everything that you do. Thank you for, being an inspiration to everyone making this happen.
Oh my goodness.
Keeping it going, for just being you and putting so much love out into the world, and love to your mom. I mean, your story twangs on my heartstrings, and we only get one mom,
I know, we do.
However they are and whoever they are, we only get one of them. Yeah. And, it's a gift to be able to show up for them, because they certainly showed up for us.
100%. 100%. So,
or most of them did.
I'm so glad we connected. Let's stay in touch, going forward. And again, Myki Angeline here with the Women's International Music Network. Kate Schutt, you are incredible.
Thank you.
There's her website.com. Download her stuff, watch her videos. And until the next time, like I always tell everybody, every day that you wake up, you determine how your day will go.
Woohoo!
Make it a good one.